Well, hello, my name is Tommy. I'm here from Gamerstyle, and right now I'm with John.
Young, yes. I'm Young Woo. I'm the lead producer for Hearthstone.
And even I'm with Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel Emmons. I'm a game designer on the live content team, work on tavern brawls, events, and a little bit of fireside gatherings.
So right now I'm here with you guys because I'm so excited about Hearthstone and the new things that are coming. And so I want to start asking you when you decide to create this new adventure, because it's the last adventure of the year. So when you're starting with these ideas and when you decide to introduce weapons to all the the classes of the game.
Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So going into the set, we pretty quickly figured out that we wanted to do like this awesome dungeon crawl experience, and that's why we have the dungeon run mode and like all these super cool artifacts and cool cards in there. So those legendary weapons kind of stemmed from our experience playing those games, and kind of like when you go into a dungeon, what's the best possible treasure you could find in there, and it's the best possible weapon for your hero. So legendary weapons just felt like a natural fit there, so we really wanted to execute on that fantasy.
Okay, when I see the new expansion, the first thing that appeared in my head is Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, because like board games, because these feel like a dungeon and these kind of things. You bought the new expansion in board games, so.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to ask any member of the Hearthstone team, we all have these fond memories of growing up reading fantasy novels, playing these tabletop role-playing games or board games. My personal story is that when I was in third grade, I used to live in Korea, and then I moved, and I had to learn English, and I didn't speak any English, so it was hard for me to make friends, and how I made friends and learned English is by playing tabletop role-playing games with other friends. So, honestly, when I learned English, I knew the difference between things like a morning star and a mace and a halberd, before like I knew all the normal English words, and I really made like wonderful friends through that experience, and kind of my childhood. It was really important to me, this idea of this fantasy of like getting together with your friends, you go into a dungeon, you fight the dragon, you avoid the traps, and then you get to the treasure chest, and then inside there is this amazing treasure or a weapon or an item that's like legendary and has been spoken of in ages. So, that's my story, and if you were to ask any member of Team 5, we all have stories like that. We really love this theme, kind of this feeling. So we wanted to express that through Kobolds and Catacombs.
And I am thinking about the new card that right now are revealed. And right now I see one card from Warlock, and it's a legendary. That when you play this minion that is cost 10 and 10/10, they destroy the deck of the opponent. My question is, this card is only for one player mode, or is a card that you can play in standard and in wild?
That card is in the expansion. So for those of you guys who haven't seen it, it's Rin, the first disciple, I think is her full name. But when you play her, you're going to get a seal card, and you have to play through a bunch of seals that each summon a slightly bigger demon. At the end, after you spend 31 mana total over 5 seals and Rin herself, you'll get the 10/10 in your hand that will actually play it. So you can play it. I expect to see. I'm really excited to see if people can do it in ranked play. It's because it's super cool. There's a super cool effect for it. It's a really awesome moment.
So it's really that we can play with this card in standard mode?
Yep, you can play with it in standard mode.
But, okay, and I have another question, because I hear that right now there are cards that when you spend more time with these cards in your hand, I don't know why, they're be more powerful with the time, or what are these new mechanics of the game?
Oh, sure. I think you're referring to a new type of card we're calling Spellstones.
Okay, yeah.
And all 9 classes each get a different Spellstone. And what Spellstone does is, while it's in your hand, if you meet a certain condition, that Spellstone becomes more powerful. So With Ngoro earlier in the year, we released a card called Quest Cards. And we really enjoyed Quest Cards because it sets a certain game plan for you. So the Quest Cards in play, and if you meet a certain condition, you get something really powerful, so you want to build your deck around it, and it kind of changes your game plan from what perhaps what a normal game of Hearthstone would be. What's cool about Spellstone is, first of all, they're common cards. So with Quest, they're legendary. So if you wanted to kind of experiment with playing with them, maybe it was a little harder for you to acquire them. With Spellstone, they're not all legendary. They're actually other rarity. A whole bunch of them are commons. So for all 9 classes, you're going to be able to get that kind of interesting tactical change you get from using something like Spellstone. Good example is the Shaman Spellstone that we showed yesterday. And what it does is every time you overload with the Spellstone in your hand, it becomes more powerful. So when you play it, without enhancing it, you just copy 1 minion. But as you improve it by using overload, you copy a minion twice. And then you end up copying a minion 3 times.
Okay.
So an example we showed in the video is, you play one of your minions, and maybe it's like a 7/7, and you overload a few times, and then you can end up with like a board full of 7/7s, but using this more powerful Spellstone. So when we do something like this, what's exciting about it is that you look, it's not just at one card that's kind of changing the way you think, but you look at that card and you go, wow, that makes overload more powerful. It makes you look at the cards over the last 2 years and be like, okay, what are all the cards with Shaman that interact with Overload? Oh, 2 years ago during Old Gods, we had a card that, 2 mana, 3/2 you play it, and its battle cry is unlock all your overloaded crystals. It's like, wow, I forgot about that card, but maybe I can do something with it now.
So you expect that people create new decks with the cards that they already exist with this new expansion?
Yeah, that's part of our core core desire with every set is we ship, something like 135 cards with every set, but it's not just the individual cards that makes it interesting. It's like you multiply those 135 cards by, another 600 cards we've shipped over the last 2 years, and you're like, wow, what if, okay, now that you have this card, what about that card from 2 years ago? Or now you have this card, how about that card from last summer? And I think that's what makes it really exciting. It allows you to really come up with different strategy. And maybe you try to make an Overload Shaman deck, a while ago, and maybe it wasn't powerful enough. But here we go. Here's another go at it. Like, what happens when you add the Spellstone to your deck? Now does it push it over the edge? Now can you break the meta with this deck? And we think that's really exciting.
Okay, I have a question about how you decide to buff cards and what kind of card, because in the last expansion, I believe that one of the most powerful cards are the Infestation from Druid, the card that costs 10 and
Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah, Ultimate Infestation. Why you don't buff this card, or how do you choose how cards you want to buff in a game, or how do you decide? Well, right now I buff the warrior weapon because I don't know.
Yeah. So we actually operate a lot of our decisions to nerf and change cards off of data that we have. We get data like weekly reports on win percentages of the different decks in Standard, and we can get super granular data down to like, decks with this card perform this percentage better against decks, including mirror matches, not including mirror matches. So when we look at decks that are, that are win percentages that are too high, we try and identify the part of those decks that make it, less fun for people. Like Ultimate Infestation as a card is super powerful, and it's a very impactful moment when you play it, but it's a 10 mana card, and I think that one of the reasons why we wanted to make changes was it was too easy to cast this 10 mana card, right? We brought Innervate down from 2 mana to 1 mana because getting Ultimate Infestation on turn 8 or, turn 5 because you were ramping so well, it was just too much, right? Spreading Plague was another one where it punished people who were trying to play aggressive decks a little bit too hard. Ultimate Infestation as a card, just looking at the data and, playing games against it and with it myself, personally, it seems like it's a very fun moment. It's a 10 mana card. 10 mana cards are supposed to be powerful. If you invest your whole turn into doing something, you should get a really big payoff for it. So when we're looking at changing cards, we want to make sure that the different classes still get to do their big exciting things, but they get to do it in a way where it's fair and balanced for the other classes as well.
Okay, and right now, with all these new cards, what of the classes do you think that becomes the tier 1?
Well, so first of all, we're going to be showing a lot more cards starting November 20th.
Okay.
So I think this kind of discussion about which class is going to become more powerful is more appropriate once we show more cards and people have a better understanding of what's coming out.
Okay, and well, the dynamic with weapons. What do you think that this impact the meta? Because in the past, classes like druid or mage or priest didn't have weapons. So when you play and you have minions that destroy the weapons and this kind of thing, you play in the first turn because you already know that these classes didn't use weapons. But right now, I think that the strategy changed. What do you think that this impact the meta?
I think that the weapons are going to create specific types of mage decks or a specific type of priest decks, right? Like, if you're playing a very aggro version of a mage deck, Alunith is a pretty big investment for that deck. Drawing 3 cards a turn is certainly very powerful, but it's not something that every deck wants to do. So I think what we're targeting here is we want to open up new possibilities for these decks. Like, the priest weapon is super exciting. If you play 3 spells in a turn, you get a dragon for free, and that's awesome. But it's that's like one of my favorite cards in the entire set. But it's it's a big investment up front. Like, you have to build your deck to have a bunch of spells in it. But if you want to have all of the powerful, efficient priest minions, that might not fit in that deck. So I don't think these weapons are the kind of thing where we expect every priest deck to play them. We're hoping that it opens up a type of priest deck or a type of mage deck that wants to run these weapons, and still, leaves room for other types of decks that don't rely on the weapons.
Okay, and what do you think that right now are the most cool of this new expansion? You think that the new cards, the new strategies, the new... I believe that you already now introduced a new mechanic of the game, and the solo mode, what?
Yeah, I think the new expansion and set of 130 cards are super exciting. But me personally, I'm really excited about the new single-player mode we announced. It's called Dungeon Run. And the reason why I'm so excited about it is it really gives players an opportunity to enjoy Hearthstone regardless of what their collection level is.
Okay.
So even if you're a brand new player who don't have any cards, or you're a player who's been playing for a long time and you have all the cards, when you go into this single player mode, your existing collection doesn't matter.
Is like Arena or something like that?
It's not like Arena. So what happens is when you go to the Dungeon Run mode, every time you play, you can play for free. Every time you play, you're given 10 card deck, the same 10 card deck every time. And as you defeat bosses in this single player mode, we give you more cards to put into your deck.
Okay.
And if you're ever defeated, then you start over, back from 10 cards. And if you're able to defeat 8 bosses in a row, then you have cleared a dungeon. And it's going to be very challenging. The way the game is designed, the mode is designed, the first few bosses are quite easy, and that allows you to kind of start making your deck better in the way you want them to make it. Because every time you defeat a boss, you get to kind of pick from piles of cards to put into your deck.
Okay.
So your first 3 bosses will kind of help you make your deck, and then later on you'll be battling harder and harder bosses with the deck you're making. And what I like about that is, collectible card games are most fun when you have a deck and you're playing and you get some cards and you're like, oh wow, I'm gonna make my deck better by putting these new cards in there. That feeling, that organic growth of your deck is really exciting and fun. And this new single player mode for free will allow new players, existing players or players who haven't played in a while to all enjoy Hearthstone the same way, in a really exciting new way. And I think that's going to be awesome.
I hear that this mechanic or this new solo mode, maybe players can replay a lot of times the replay value, to play a lot of time this game. So I have a question. If I play a lot this game and defeat, I obtain something special, or Because
Yeah.
with Frozen Throne, when you pass, when you defeat the Lich King with all the classes, you obtain a specific.
Yeah, do you want to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that?
So it was super important for us for the dungeon run to be like a satisfying experience. So if you do beat the dungeon run with all 9 classes, that means you get to the end and you beat the 8th boss. You'll unlock a special card back that you can use to sort of show off that you've done this super hard thing. But you know, it's meant to be as kind of like a challenge that we're posing to players. You know, it's a free to play mode. We want people to get in there, you play it a bunch, and you know, kind of show off that they did this harder than normal adventure type of thing.
Okay, and when you decide what kind of expansion do you release in the year? In January, you have a meeting or something to say, well, this is my idea, and I want that this appear in December, or when you decide all the expansion for all the year?
Yeah, so as we make bigger and better expansions,
Okay.
and especially now, you know, with something like Kobolds and Catacombs, we are releasing a 135 card set and also a brand new game mode. You know, that's, I think, making us plan farther and farther ahead, because we need to plan farther ahead so we can have crazier ideas and we have enough time to execute. So, you know, we're starting to already flesh out all the sets we're going to ship in 2018 already, and I think that's a really healthy place for us to be, because it allows us to make awesome sets like Kobolds and Catacombs and do, frankly, crazy things like we're doing with Dungeon Run.
Yeah.
There's always a meeting that we have before every set goes up. We have a big meeting with everybody on the team, and everybody's just throwing crazy ideas in there, and we take those ideas and we kind of refine them into like what really speaks to us as a team. So for Kobolds and Catacombs, somebody threw up dungeon exploration, and that was just like, yes, we really want to do something about like, you know, going through treasure, because everybody on the team is just super jazzed about that feeling of, you know, like going into the dungeon and fighting the dragon and getting the artifact and coming back.
Right now we have I don't know if they are finished or not, but if you play in arena, you can play with a class and you can select cards for another class.
Yep.
So you can play with 2 classes or something.
Yeah, it was a dual class.
Well, my question is, we are already thinking, or you already think about that, put another class in the game or something like that, or only 9 classes?
Well, so you never say never with Hearthstone, but I think that, like, as far as adding a 9th, like a 10th class or something to the game permanently, where, you know, the cards would be in booster packs or something, that would be something that would be really hard for us to execute on. You know, there's a lot of design space. We want to make sure that the 9 class that we do have kind of have their space to do different things and to, like, you know, have 3 or 4 different versions of priest decks or druid decks or whatever there is. But, you know, like, I work on tavern brawls and events, and so, like, I made that Halloween mode. Like, we're looking at doing super cool events in the future, right? Hallow's End was kind of our first big event on the live events team, and I'm super excited with how it kind of came together. We're always looking for new crazy events and new crazy stuff to do, so I wouldn't put different different crazy stuff in that kind of aspect past us sometime in the future.
Yeah, like that kind of time-limited mode, where if you're a highly engaged player, I think it seems like you are, where you play a lot of Hearthstone, and you're like, hey, I wish I could have a, you know, like, I'm getting used to this. I want something different. And that's something where Dan and his team are really focusing their energy on, where, you know, maybe it's been 2 months after the last expansion was released. Let's give them something mind-blowing and different. Oh, hey, go to the arena, now you get to be 2 classes. And everyone's like, what the heck does that even mean? I mean, frankly, when Dan first pitched me that idea, I was like, what are you talking about? You want 2 classes in one? Like, how does that even work?
I did blank stare.
But, you know, we did it, and it's mind-blowing, and it's very well received. Everyone's having a good time. And, you know, I don't think we want that to last forever. So, you know, it's going to be there, and it's going to be enjoyed, and it will be missed when it's gone. And then, you know, maybe next year we're going to do it again. And I think that's really healthy for the game. And, you know, in some ways, like with Kobolds and Catacombs, we're doing something similar there, right? Where we always want to keep you on your toes. And we don't want you to be able to guess what we're doing next. So, you know, as an expansion season approaches, everyone's like, oh, yeah, 135 cards, and there'll be adventure, there'll be 7 missions, or I don't know, maybe they'll have 11 missions. Whoa. But instead, we're like, hey, there's a roguelike in the game now, and well, your collection doesn't matter. And then everyone's like, what's that? What does it even mean? Like, what do you tell you? Yeah, then it's free. So, that's really important. Like, we got to keep the game fresh, and we always talk about delightful surprise, and that's something we really focus on.
So you think that is the key of the success of Hearthstone, or what do you think that are the key of all these years people continue playing a card game, Hearthstone?
I think it's a combination of how easy it is to get into. Like, Hearthstone is super accessible. That's always super important to us, and just always doing different stuff. And I think that, Tavern Brawls is a big part of that, and doing super crazy cool stuff with expansions like dungeon runs and legendary weapons and Spellstones, and like all of these things are stuff that we've never done before, and it's exciting, and it's possibility space, and people are going to try and build decks with all these cool new cards, and I'm super excited to see what people come out with.
Yeah, and I'm a producer, so my job really entails around people like Dan's a designer, and we have artists and engineers on the team. They're the people who come up with the ideas and look and feel, and they execute and build a thing. My job really centers around how do we get us all together, figure out what excites us, and then make a plan to get there and execute. And to me, if I learned anything working on Hearthstone is if we're excited about what we're building, and if we're excited about our cool ideas, and if we think it's a little crazy maybe, and most importantly, if we're having fun building Hearthstone together, that's proven to work. It's proven to help us be successful over the last 4 years. And it's the same thing with Kobolds and Catacombs. Some of the mission designers came to me and they're like, okay, Young, here's the thing. Like, I know we've been making missions and adventures this way for a long time now, since Naxxramas, our first expansion. We made our adventures these ways. But what if we didn't do that? What if we threw away all that work and then did this other crazy thing? And part of me is like, you're crazy, right? Because that's so much work. But then I see in them how excited they are, right? And they're like, okay, Young, before you say no, play this prototype, and then let's talk. And I play the prototype. I'm like, holy crap, that is like the most fun I've had with Hearthstone like ever. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, like it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be crazy. We're gonna have to hustle, but let's do it. Let's go for it.
I can't remember a Hearthstone meeting I was in the last like 6 or 8 months where I haven't heard the phrase, okay, this is a crazy idea. But it's
usually how we start.
Yeah, it's like there's always like I remember when Ben Brode told me about the missions. It was like, okay, picture this. What if we didn't do any of the missions and it was like this crazy thing? And I was like, did you talk to Young? Is he still alive? Did he have a heart attack? But yeah, like that's the lifeblood of Hearthstone, right? We keep doing cool stuff like that.
Yeah, and we're having fun. Like, and we're really grateful for all the players playing Hearthstone. Like, we get to do this thanks to everybody who love our game. And yeah, I think as long as the players are having fun and we're having a fun time building the game, like I think we're going to continue to be successful.
Do you think that this happen, or this is the same when you give to the people a new card? Like in this event in the BlizzCon, you give a new pirate, no? And this pirate is more.
Well, he's not a pirate, to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
He's a new card. He's not a pirate. Yeah. Okay. Keep going. Yeah.
Okay. But when this card, tell us about this card, because I think that this kind of cards didn't play in the meta, no? These are more for fun, of this kind that you are talking about. So.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll see how well the card performs. I think it's hard to say, hey, is this going to be meta relevant or not before we actually start playing with it. But what we like about doing something like Mare and the Fox, again, this idea of crazy, right? Like, we've always wanted to announce something at BlizzCon and immediately go, actually, turn on your phone right now and log into Hearthstone, and you have it, right? Like there was this fantasy we always had, and logistically that's insane. But maybe we'll try it at one point.
We'll see. I'll keep pushing for it. That was the first I've heard that it's possible someday. So I'm super on board.
So that stuff is like logistically hard. So we're like, okay, like we're not quite ready to just be like, turn on your phone and you can play it right now. But what if we said something like, here's a set, it's gonna be awesome, and you get to play a card from the set on Monday, like 2 days from now, or tomorrow, or and that's like what, like what are you talking about? How does that even work? Like, I get to play a card from a set that's releasing in December on Monday. That's awesome, and that's what makes us do stuff like that. We're like, well, wouldn't that be freaking cool? Yeah, that's insane. We got to do a lot of work to make it possible, but then we make it possible.
Well, thank you very much for this interview.
Absolutely.
And one more thing that I want to ask you is, if for all the people in Mexico and in Latin America that watch this video, what do you tell to the people that are already playing the game, so the pro players and this kind of guys, and the new gamers that want to enter to the game? What do you can say to these players?
Okay, let's start. Yeah, just I really hope you check out Kobolds Catacombs. I think there's something for everybody in there. I think the Spellstones are super skill testing cards, and I think the dungeon runs are a perfect way to get into the game. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the set. We put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, I really wanna. I'm really proud of the way Dungeon Run came together, and the 135 card set is super exciting. But especially for new players, or maybe players who have played and maybe are taking a break right now, and even for players who are really engaged, who wants to experience Hearthstone in a new way, check out the Dungeon Run mode. It's gonna be super cool. Your collection is independent from there, so don't be scared. Even if you haven't played in a while, if you have no cards, it's okay. Everyone's gonna have the same awesome experience, and please give us feedback. We think this is just a start. You guys are gonna play it, enjoy it, and then you're gonna let us know how to make it better, and then we're gonna make it better. So looking forward to it.
Well, thank you very much, and stay tuned with us in BlizzCon.